Hello everyone, my name is Begum. Welcome to Prestige Academy Online Lessons Algebra 1, Lesson 2. Today we will be going over variables, combining like terms, evaluating expressions, and lastly solving equations. Alright, let's get into our first topic, variables. We started talking about these in the first lesson. Basically what you need to know is variables are represented by letters like this. And if the question doesn't tell you what they are, then you leave it as variables. All right, combining like terms. Sometimes the question will have different variables. For example, it might say 2 plus x plus y. Now, because x and y are different variables, you can't combine them. But if the question had something like this, and let's say there was 2x, then as you can see, there are two x's, two like terms, and you can't combine these two. This basically says 2 times x. There are two x's. And here there's another x. So 2 x's plus 1x is going to be 3x. And then you can just carry these two down. And because they're not like terms, you can't combine them. So you would say 2 plus y plus 3x, and that will be your answer. We're going to go more into combining like terms as our terms get more complex and we start learning about exponents. All right, now let's get into evaluating expressions. This is going to be when the question does tell you what x is. And all you have to do is plug in this variable into wherever x is. Or for example, in this case, you have a, so you're going to plug a in for a and b in for b. Let's do the first one together. It says 2x plus 4. So I would write 2, leave a space for x, plus 4. Now, as I said previously, 2x means 2 of x, which basically means 2 times x. So we can put a little multiplying symbol over here. In this case, x is 10. So we would write 10 in for x. So for the space I left blank, I'm just going to write 10. And then we just follow the order of operations, what we learned in the previous class. We do the multiplication before the addition, so we would multiply 2 with 10. That's 20. And then we would add 4 to that and get 24. Okay, let's do the second one. In the second one, we have two variables. And just a little vocabulary. This is called a coefficient, the number right before the variable. And these are called constants, the numbers you see that are not touching any variable. All right, so we said, I'm going to get a different color. We're going to be plugging this in for a. So let's write that down. 3 times 4. And then we're going to go plus 4. And we're going to plug 7 in for b. 4 times 7, because 4 is the coefficient of b. And then plus 5. And then again, we just use order of operations. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 7 is 28. And then we just add them up with 5. And that is 12 plus 28 is 40, plus 5 is 45. And that's our answer. Now let's do the last one. It's a little bit different. As you can see, we have a parentheses and a variable with a coefficient in front of the parentheses. From the last lesson, I hope you remember the distributive property. So we're just going to distribute these two. We can do this another way. I'm going to go into the other way too, but let's just do it this way for now. 6y times x is 6y x. Because we don't know what y is when we're distributing, if we ignore this, and we don't know what x is, again, if we ignore this, we're just going to write it as 6yx. And there are invisible multiplication signs in front of these two. All right. And then we're going to multiply 6y with negative 5. Because they have different signs, as we learned in the last class, we're going to put a negative sign. 6y times 5. Let's put that over here. Times. All right. As you can see, there's a coefficient in front of y. When we're multiplying a number like this with a constant, then we just multiply this number with the coefficient. So negative 5 times 6 is going to be negative 30. And then we just write the y in. So the answer is going to be negative 30y over here. So let's put that over here too. All right. This is this distributed. And then we can just plug in the numbers. 6 times y is 3 times x is 4 minus 30 times, and y was 3. And then we can just solve this. 6 times 3 is going to be 18. 18 times 4 is 72. 30 times 3 is 90. And we have a negative sign in between. So 72 minus 90 is going to be, because the larger number is negative 18. And that will be our answer. Now let's try to do this a different way. Let's just plug it in right from the start. 6 times y is 3. And then we have a parentheses. X is 4 minus 5. We first do the parentheses because, again, order of operations. 4 minus 5 is going to be negative 1. And then we have 6 times 3. And as I mentioned previously, this parentheses is just going to mean that we are multiplying whatever it is in, whatever it has inside, with whatever is outside. So we can just put a multiply symbol here. That's going to be 6 times 3, that is 18, times negative 1. It's going to be negative 18. The negative 1, when you multiply anything by negative 1, you're just changing the sign of it. If it's positive, you're making it negative. If it's negative, you're making it positive. And as you can see, we got the same answer. All right, what's next? This is one of the key topics of algebra. You have to understand this to move on to more complicated questions. Okay, let's see. We have x plus 5 equals 9 and 4x equals 12. These are equations, and they are basically stating a fact. They're saying that this side equals to this side. So whatever we add to 5, it's going to equal to 9. Now, how do we solve these? Imagine a negative line. Imagine an invisible line over here. Whatever we do to this side, we have to do to this side. And what we're trying to do is leave x alone. In order to do that for this question, we would have to get rid of plus 5. And the rule for getting rid of these numbers is to do the opposite. This says we are adding 5. The opposite of that would be subtracting 5. And because we did this on this side, we have to do this on the other side. When you subtract 5 from x plus 5, you just get x. Because if we write this out like how it would be normally, we would get this. And positive 5 minus negative 5 is just going to cross out and give us x. So in this case, the plus 5 and negative 5 cross out. Like that. And just leave x. On the other side, we have to do some math. We see 9 minus 5. 9 minus 5 is 4. And then we can just bring down the equal sign. So x equals 4. That will be the answer to the question. Now let's do the next question. In the next question, we have 4x equals 12. And this basically means 4 multiplied by x is equal to 12. In this question, we learned that we do the opposite of whatever is happening to x. In this case, we are multiplying it by 4. So the opposite of that would be dividing it by 4. So we divide this by 4. Let's imagine an invisible line. If we are dividing this side by 4, we have to do the same thing on this side. So we divide this with 4 too. These two 4's cancel out, leaving x. The equal sign is carried down. And then we just do this side. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So the answer is x equals 3. Now we have a few examples, and these are just addition and subtraction. Let's do the first one. X plus 45 is equal to 615. X is added to 45 to get this number. So if we draw an invisible line here, we have to do the opposite on this side. Negative 45. And do the same thing on this side. Draw a line. The 45's crossed out, so we only have x left. The equal sign. 615 minus 45 is 570. That's our answer. For the second one, we have 24 plus x equals 10. Now, the number is before x, but don't worry about that. That just means the same thing as x plus 24. We just do the same thing. Think of an invisible line. You have to get rid of this 24, so they are being added. So we're going to subtract. Do this on the other side too. Draw a line. These cross out. X equals 10 minus 24 is negative 14. Now on this side, we have subtraction. The opposite of subtraction is adding. So we're going to add 34 on this side and add 34 on this side. The 34's cross out. We carry x down and the equal sign down. Negative 35 plus 34 is going to be negative 1. And on the next one, we have -5 minus x. As we saw here, we're just going to do +5 and +5. The 5's are going to cancel out, but we have -x left, so we're going to carry -x down. In all of these, we only had x. Now we have -x equals 25 plus 5 is 30. Now we need to get rid of this negative sign. And as you remember from the previous slides, I said that whenever you multiply something with -1, their sign changes. So in order to make this into a positive number, let's just multiply it with -1. And we have to multiply this side by -1 also, because whatever we do on this side, we have to do on the other. -x multiplied by -1 is going to give us x. And 30 multiplied by -1 is going to give us -30, because you're just changing the signs. So the answer is going to be x equals -30 when you leave x alone. Right, now we have examples for multiplication and division. Now I'm trying to give you guys a wide variety of examples, so if you encounter a question like this in the future, you know how to do it. In this question, we have 4 times x. Because they're being multiplied, just going to divide it. And because we're doing it to this side, we're going to do it to the other side. The 4's are going to cross out. We have x left over. Bring the equal sign down. 24 divided by 4 is 6. The 13 is being multiplied with x, so we're just going to divide by 13. Do the same thing to the other side. 13 is crossed out. Bring x down. Equals 169 divided by 13. It's 13. Now on this side, we have division. X is being divided by 12 to get -6. So we do the opposite of division, which is multiplication. We're going to multiply both sides by 12. Write that more clearly. Multiplying this side by 12 and multiplying this side by 12. X divided by 12 times 12 is just going to cross the 12's out and leave us x. Bring the equal sign down, and then 6 times 12, which is 72. Now, there is a negative sign in front of 6. And in multiplication, we know that if we multiply numbers with opposite signs, we're going to have a negative number as an answer. So we have to write the negative sign in front of 72. And our answer is x equals -72. Make sure you know what the negative signs are and make sure you know where they go so you don't get 72 as your answer. All right, let's do the next one. Just like this one, we have x being divided by a number. So we're just going to multiply it by whatever it's being divided by. And because we're doing this to this side, we have to do it this side also. X divided by 25 times 25 is just going to cross the 25's out, leave us x. Bring the equal sign down, and then 25 times 25, which is 625. All of those were one-step equations. Now we have two steps. As you can see, we have x being multiplied by something and a number being added to it after. So how are we going to do this? Now you can decide to divide both sides by 16 first to get rid of the 16, but then you would have to divide 25 by 16 and divide 62 by 16, which is going to be a lot of work. So let's get rid of this 25 first. We're going to do -25 on each side. draw a line so it doesn't confuse you. On this side, 16x is left because the 25 is crossed out. Bring the equal sign down, and then 62 minus 25, which is 37. And then you can just do this like you would do a one-step equation. Because 16 is being multiplied by x, just divide that. And then divide this side by the same thing. And then 16 is crossed out, and we're left with x equals 37 over 16. Right, let's do this one. Again, you can multiply, because x is being divided by 24, you can multiply both sides by 24 first, but then you would have to multiply 14 with it and then 4 with it. So let's get rid of 14 first. Because it's being subtracted, we're going to add it. We always do the opposite. And add it to this side too, because we have to do whatever we do on the left side to the right side. And we're just going to get x divided by 24. It's going to be carried down. And the 14 is crossed out. So we're going to carry equal sign down. Negative 4 plus 14, which is just 10. Now we have to get rid of this dividing of 24. Because it's being divided, we're just going to multiply it by 24. And we're doing this on this side, so we have to do this on the other side also. The 24s are going to cross out, leaving us x. We're going to carry equal sign down. 10 times 24 is just going to be 240. Okay, you can do the next two at home on your own, because we don't have enough time. I want to cover as many subjects as I can. Okay, now we have a question where x is on two places. It's on both sides. It's here and it's on the other side. Now we can subtract 4, but then x is still going to be on the side, but we want to have x on one side. So let's expand this first. Let's use distributive property on this side. We're first going to apply this to this one and then to 2. 2 times 3x is going to give us 6x. Just multiplying the coefficients and putting x in. Then we have plus 2 times 2, which is 4. Then we can rewrite the full equation. Alright, we want all x's on one side and all the numbers on the other. So I want to get this number, 6x, to this side. In order to do that, I'm doing whatever I did to numbers. I'm just going to do the opposite of what's happening here. I'm going to, because it's being added to 4 on this side, I'm going to subtract it from the right side. So I'm doing minus 6x on this side. And because I did it on one side, I have to do this on this side too. The 6x are just going to cross out. And here we have 2x minus 6x. Now because the terms are the same, they're both x, we can just combine them as this and say negative 4x. 2 minus 6 is negative 4. And we just carry down the x plus 4, because 4 is on this side, equals, the 6x is crossed out, so we have only 4. Now we're left with this. And like we did on the previous page, the two-step solving equations, we can just solve them as it is. We're going to get rid of plus 4 first by doing minus 4 on each side. 4s are going to cross out, just carry that down. Carry the equal sign down. And 4 minus 4, which is 0. Now we're going to be getting rid of this negative 4. Negative 4 is being multiplied by x, so we're just going to divide it. The negative 4 is crossed out, leaving us just x equals, and 0 divided by any number is going to give us 0. So the answer is x equals 0. After you do this, you can check your answer. We said x was equal to 0. So let's see. Let's plug it back in like we did in evaluating the equations. That's 2 times 0. I need 0 here and here. Plus 4 equals 2, parentheses, 3 times 0 plus 2. Now let's solve this side. 2 times 0 is going to be 0, because whatever you multiply with 0 is going to give you 0, and plus 4, which is just 4. On this side, we can just use distributive property, or we can just add this and then multiply by 2. Let's do that. 3 times 0 is going to give us 0. And then there's plus 2. That's just going to give us 2 in parentheses. And then there's this 2. 2 times 2 is going to be 4. So we have 4 equals 4, which is correct. So we were right, and x equals 0. And that's how you would check your answer. You would plug your answer back in and solve to see if your two answers are equal. Now let's do this one. All right. We have both sides being divided by a number, different numbers, and then x being subtracted by something. Subtract x, a number being subtracted from x. Now let's get rid of this 2 first. In order to get rid of this 2, we're going to multiply both sides by 2. So these crossed out, and we're left with x equals 2 equals 9 over 3 times 2. And we covered this on the first class. It's basically 2 times 9 over 3. Imagine 2 is 2 over 1. And when you multiply, you just go like this. 2 times 9 is 18. 1 times 3 is 3. 18 over 3 is going to be 6. Because that's just 18 divided by 3. So on this side, when you do this, you get 6. And to get rid of negative 2, you just do plus 2 on this side and plus 2 on this side. Here x is left, the 2 is crossed out, equals 6 plus 2, which is 8. And that's our answer. Now let's check our answer for this one again. We got x equals 8. We're plugging in 8 for x. 8 minus 2 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we got 3 on this side. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 is equal to 3. So x equals 8 is right. Okay, before we end our lesson, I want to quickly go over radicals. We're going to go much more in detail into these in the next class. But let's just simplify radicals. It will be sort of a review of pre-algebra. Let's say 81. Now you might already know this at the top of your head, but let's say you didn't and you have to solve it. I would have to first take out the smallest number I can. I know this is not divisible by 2 because it's not an even number, but it is divisible by 3. So let's divide it by 3. And when you divide 81 by 3, you get 27. I know 27 is also divisible by 3. So let's do that. And you get 27 times 3. 27 divided by 3 is 9. And I know 9 is divisible by 3 because it's just 3. And then you have to group this into 2 groups. In this case, I can do it like this. And the value of one group is going to be your answer. In this case, 3 times 3 is 9. So your answer is 9. Now let's do one with 120, because it's going to be a little different. I know 120 is divisible by 2, so I would just divide by 2 first and get 60. I know 60 is divisible by 2, and you get 30. And I know 30 is divisible by 2, and you get 15. 15 is not divisible by 2, but it is divisible by 3, and you would get 5. Now, I can't make 2 full groups with this, but I can see that there are 3 2's, and I can make this and this a group because I see 2 of the same thing. I can't group this 2 because I don't have another 2. I have 2 groups, and they both have 2's in it. So I can take 2 out, put the radical sign back in, and put whatever is left inside. I have this whole thing still inside because they don't have a group. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30, so I would just put 30 back inside. Alright, now let's do it with a variable, which we're going to go more into in the next class. Let's say 125 x. Now the multiples of this are going to be 125 times x. And the multiples of 125, and this is another way you can do these questions, is 5 times 5 times 5. And then we just put the x in, times x. We're making 2 groups. I can see that there are 3 5's, but I can only group it like this because there is not another 5 this 5 can group with. And there's another x, there's not another x this x can group with. So we're just going to say this is a group, the 2 5's here. Take 5 out of the radical and put whatever is left inside. And in this case, it's 5x. So inside, we have 5x. And that will be our answer. 5 radical 5x. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. In the next class, I'm going to go more into all of this. We'll cover inequalities, we're going to cover combining radicals, and we're going to learn more about combining like terms. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.